What's up, demons and demonettes? Tis I, Trexy, Demon Queen. Oh, once again, we're talking about a controversy. We didn't really get to talk about the Paragon issue before. That got reverted. That's probably for the best. 50% increase to the Paragon stats was going to be too much. But today we're going to be talking shrinkflation and how it's hitting us in Chains of Eternity. But before we get into it, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. So let's get into shrinkflation first, and what is shrinkflation, and then I'll give you a real-world example of shrinkflation. So shrinkflation is a business practice where a company reduces the size or quantity of a product while keeping the price the same, right? Then why is this bad? Shrinkflation is legal. That's whether it's legal. Where is it bad? It's bad here, right? By its nature, it's predatory towards consumers. The idea is that the manufacturers slowly lower the quantity over time in order to deceive customers into thinking they are getting the same value for the same amount of money. We can use the real-world example of chips, right? Your bag of chips. You go to the grocery store. Way back when, the bag used to be full. Now it's maybe half full, right? So you go to the grocery store, you pay $3 for your 12-ounce bag of chips, right? Same size as the original packaging, but we're kind of used to it being half full, half air at this time. Time goes by, you go back to the grocery store, you grab the bag, you open up the bag when you get home. Next thing you know, there's less chips in the bag. You look at the bag, and now your 12-ounce bag of chips is 11-ounce bag of chips. And then the next thing you know, it's 9-ounce bag of chips, and you have a way more air to chip ratio in your bag. So you're getting less bang for your buck, right? So how is that hitting us in Chains of Eternity? Well, it's going to hit P4, Celestial, and Hypogeans. That's right. Our biggest primary units, our premium units, are units that are the chase units. The whale units are getting affected. It's not going to affect your other units so much because they're not going to get this change. So here we have the talk with designers. This was also on the Pioneer Discord when they announced the revert to the 1.2.4. So we're looking at the Paragon stats only, so this section here, primarily item number 2. You'll be able to increase the rivalry stats for your Celestial and Hypogean heroes after upgrading them to Supreme Plus. But the boosted stats for Celestials and Hypogean heroes upgraded to Paragon 4 will be the same level as those Paragon 4 heroes from other factions, right? So what does this translate to? How does this look on our heroes? Well, I pushed all of my heroes to Paragon 3 on Pioneer, but basically your S plus Celestial Hypogeans are now going to be the equivalent of Paragon 1, and where you got plus 15 on the energy stats and plus 6 on the other stats, you're now getting 11.5 and 4.5. So how does that look? How does this compare? All right, we're going to take our P4 Heroic, right? So we're going to end up at the same Paragon level stats. So this is still going to end up at 60, 60, 24, 24, 24, 24, right? And then we're going to have the 2 new stats at the bottom. Right now, if we look at an existing P3 Celestial or Hypogean, so let's go to Dunlinger since he's Paragon 3, right? We're gonna have a 45, a 45, 18, 18, 18, 18. Now let's switch on over to the Pioneer server whenever it decides it wants to open up. It's just a little slow for me. We had to reallocate some PC resources, so it's on a different drive. It's a little slow. Now, keep in mind, we'll look at Dunlinger so we can look at same Paragon 3 to same Paragon 3.
Witness this round.
All right. Now your 45 goes to 48.5, 48.5, and 19.5. So what does that mean? So that means at Paragon 4, right, we're no longer going to have the same advantage we used to have over Paragon 3, right? So at present, we have 15 on energy stats, and we have 6 on the other stats. Now we're only going to have 11.5 against Paragon 3, and the 4.5 against Paragon 3. How does that translate? Well, that means we're going to have less of an advantage over Paragon, over S+, over Paragon 1, Paragon 2, right? Because it, instead of being a plus 15, you're going to essentially start out at Paragon 1, and then you're going to get 11.5 for your energy stats and 4.5 for your other stats. It's not quite as high as Paragon 1. It's about 1 or 2 points lower, so I think the energy stats are like plus 14, and the regular stats are plus 4. So yeah, it's P4. So while P4 is going to end up in the same place, you're going to have less of an advantage over those other premium units, right? So your P4 Heroic's going to have less of an advantage over a P3 Heroic, less of an advantage over a P2 Heroic, etc., etc. So why is this really bad? P4's already been devalued enough as is. Last season we introduced Lily May, who introduced the counter ult mechanic. She was the first hero to do so. She was able to counter Aaron's comps and just kind of like annihilated those, and we saw the death of the Aaron stall comps. We've had to go through a cycle in the mid tier of new comps. On the higher end of things, we had Dunlinger come in, and at S+, Dunlinger was able to kind of negate all of the team's ult. So if you ran like a heavy burst team that was all Paragon 4, so let's say Dio, Taylene, Lily May, Thorin, Damien, all P4 for me, ran, the team was untouchable in Arena, or people had a very hard time competing with it. All of a sudden, Dunlinger comes along, S+, and now I'm having to worry about Paragon 1, Paragon 2, and a combination of Supreme Plus to that, beating my team. Is that going to make anything better for me now with these stats? No, it's going to make it worse. If we go look at the old God comp, which was a Burial, a Scarlita, a Dio, Thorin, and Damien, perhaps on map 4, where it was definitely a bit stronger. Once Heroic came in, my team was getting beat by S+, Paragon 1, and that's Paragon 4. That shouldn't be happening. That's going to be even worse, and it's going to make it even harder for a Paragon 4 to win in these cases. I know personally I won't be pulling for Paragon 4 anytime soon if these changes do go through on my Celestials and Hypogeans, just because the value just isn't there compared to the other Celestials Hypogeans. Now, if we do get the rare case where we do get a strong A tier or S tier hero, we may still pull them to a Paragon 4, like a Bonnie, like a Tassie, just because they really help us out in those PvP environments, and the gap between them and the Celestials is a little bit higher, so pushing them to P4 would have more of a benefit. But P3 is going to kind of be the sweet spot, and just with them touching Paragon levels, it's going to make me nervous. So I'm probably going to stop at Paragon 2, let alone Paragon 3, because there's not really an advantage to Paragon 4ing your Celestials and Hypogeans as much at this point. We are getting diminished returns for they talk about an increase in resources, an expenditure of resources, and buffing Supreme Plus because of these resources, but that should follow suit. So if they want to do a buff to Supreme Plus in the beginning, okay, maybe do like a small stat boost, maybe do like half of Paragon 1, and then just make Paragon 1 end up where Paragon ends up. So if you're going to devalue it, devalue your Paragon 1, or just make it a flat stat increase, right? So maybe you go half of a Paragon level for the Celestial Hypogeans at S+, and then that translates throughout, and then your Celestial Hypogeans are just better as they should be, right? So say instead of getting a plus 14 to the energy stats, we get a plus 7 at S+, and then we end at 67. I would do no changes to the other two stats, right? The intimidation and inspiration stats. I wouldn't touch those. They shouldn't even get those at Supreme Plus. They should get 0 of those. That should be unlocked at Paragon 1 still, but you want to give them some energy. You want to give them the damage reduction, fine. But that should be a flat increase across the board. We shouldn't be giving a value on the bottom end to take it away from the top end. So it's going to hurt the whales the most. It's not going to affect your free-to-play light spend. It's going to hurt your dolphins that push to a P3. They're going to see a decrease in their value over a lower spend or free-to-play accounts. It's really going to hit the whales and the krakens the most, because now all of a sudden their P4 is silently being nerfed. That's right, we're getting a shrinkflated nerf in the form of the stat change. It really bugs me. I don't know if we're going to get the support that we got, because it's only an issue that really affects the top ends of spenders, which, you know, well, we'll just leave it at that. We won't go into like how the game is, the PvP side of thing is pay to win, and they're constantly adding in mechanics to make it less a pay to win and devaluing. So if they want to devalue the value of the Paragon levels, then I'm just not going to invest in them, because it just doesn't make sense. It's a bad investment. You're getting a less ROI, a less bang for your buck. Now, I'll voice it out. I'll talk to the other whales that I can. Hopefully, we can get this change reverted to. You know, I would rather they just not touch Paragon stats, or rather than meddle with them and change things, because now we're looking at silently getting nerfed, and that's a big no-no. I think if I hadn't had as much invested at this point, I would certainly quit the game. I would potentially charge back my entire account, or as much of it as I could. It's just that I really like this game, and I'd rather get the issue fixed than have to quit. But if push comes to shove, we just won't P4 anymore, because there's no value in it. And that's it for this one, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!